Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today we have a special guest, Frank, from Frank's Media and Review. So we're going to be talking about Two Evil Eyes, which is basically like a small anthology. It's got two films by two great directors. So we're going to be talking about the film at length, what we like, what we don't like. I know Frank's got some stuff he wants to talk about. So we're just going to get right into it. I will leave all of Frank's stuff in the description below. So definitely go check that out. I have his stuff on the screen as well, his Twitter and his YouTube. So you can check those links out as well. We're just going to get into this and talk about all of this stuff. Two Evil Eyes. I watched the 4K version of this from Blue Underground, which is fantastic. This is George Romero and Dario Argento. So two legends. You know, I wouldn't say that this is their best work. It's definitely interesting. And you can see like their style choices in the movies that they are presenting. These are about an hour a piece. So they're like small Edgar Allan Poe, like little fables that they've turned into like small little movies. So they're not feature length, but I think they do a good job as like conveying what they're trying to do as far as like the stories that they're, you know, touching upon. So I like that aspect. I think the acting is great in these. I don't think there's any like bad actors. The girl in the second one is pretty rough. Like, I'm just like, I don't know what she's doing. Like,
Harvey Keitel's
like girlfriend.
Yeah.
What is her? Annabelle. I think she's fine, but it's just like, there's just the thing is with these, because they're only an hour, there's no time to develop these characters, which I think is the biggest problem. Okay, you don't want to jump ahead, but when we get to her characters, like, yeah, it's happening, but then some other stuff happens and you're like, where did this come from? Like, it's just, everything is just like at a rapid pace because they have to get through these stories in such a short time. So I think it's cool. Is it like fully effective? I don't think so, as far as like what they're doing, but it's a cool thing that these two people made this kind of like anthology thing. So I think that's rad that they were able to like pull this together, because who knows if they actually worked well together, what, you know, was going on. Argento is a very weird dude. I wish there was more of his style in this. You know, there's a naked woman cut in half. So like, that's, you know, you've got a Dario Argento movie right there. But
so yeah, you're already like talking about that. I wanted to say really quick is that I got Saw vibes. So I'm wondering, James Wan is a big Dario Argento fan.
Oh, probably. I mean, I think, yeah, when you're, you know, we'll break each of these down and talk about them, but from a standpoint, you know, from the films themselves. So like the first one, I guess people haven't seen these. So I guess I can I'll give a brief overview of what the first one we're going to talk about. So there's two stories here. The first one is The Facts in the Case of Mr. Valdemir. It's a convincing wife and her lover use a hypnotic trance to embrace a fortune from her dying husband, only to receive some chilling surprises from beyond the grave. So that's what the first movie is about. And you like, again, there's just really not a lot of like character development. It's just like, hey, this guy's dying. And there's this hypnosis thing that just works. Like, there's no background. There's just like, there's this doctor. She's in love with this doctor, but she's kind of using that doctor also to get the money, because it's like, is she actually going to be with him? I don't know. Seems like she doesn't want to. Like, they even have that scene where they like might do something and they don't. And he's like, oh, I haven't gotten anything out of this. So she has not given him anything. She's using him, but also kind of covers it up by being like, yeah, well, my husband's not dead yet. So I don't want to, it's like, I want to cheat on you, but I'm not going to leave my wife for you. It's one of those like things like, you know, so it's very funny where it's just like, but I think that's my only problem with the two of them, is because they're shorter in length. Like, you just kind of like, you're in the story, which I don't know. At the same token, I do like that you're kind of just like in the middle of the story. It's like you came into the middle of the movie. Like, you just kind of peered into these people's lives and this is what's happening. Yeah. Is it a good movie? No, but it's a cool idea where you're kind of just like, somebody's like reading a story and you're just kind of like getting a little view into like the middle climax. It's like the last like hour of the movie, basically. You just don't get the setup. You don't get the first 30 minutes of like, here's what everybody's doing. Here are these characters. Just like, hey, here's the last hour of the movie. You already know who these people are. You already know the stakes. You already know what's happening. We're going to kill this guy. That's basically where we're at. So I like that aspect where you're kind of cutting the fluff out. You're just getting the hour, but it doesn't necessarily make it a compelling thing on its own. Like, if you were just to watch one of these on its own, you kind of be like, oh, I'm clearly missing something. Like, I feel like I'm missing, like you switched over on like cable like you used to, and you caught the last hour. And you're like, I don't know what happened before this. That's kind of how it feels, which is an interesting way to take it.
Yeah. For me, I like that aspect.
Yeah, like I said, it's a double-edged
directly right
sword.
in
It's
there.
like
Yeah.
it's a cool thing, but
Mhm.
it's like again, I think if you watched it on its own, like you
Mhm.
like, I think it's worse on the second one because you're like the first one, you kind of oh yeah, it's rapidly happening, but then the second one, it's like it's way more drawn out. Like Argento's is like way more drawn out, and you don't really get anything until the end. So it's
Mhm.
like the converse of that, where it's like oh like. Romero's like, no, we're just going to get into the stuff. We're just going to
Mhm.
get into the cool stuff. And then Argento's like, no, we're going to have this weird stuff for 30, 40 minutes. And then we're going to tell you the little bit of the plot. So it's this weird, they're very interesting in how they come across. But yeah, the first one I do kind of like that. It's like, I wish there was a little more backstory to like some of this because, I mean, again, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter where those characters come from, but you don't really have a history with like, was her husband like, they allude to him not being a great guy.
Mhm.
But you don't see it. So there's
Yeah.
a lot of like telling and not showing in that first, one. So
Mhm.
I think 15 more minutes, it would be awesome. I think it would
Mhm.
be like you could kind of ease into those characters a little more and then you could have the full length. Whereas like again, it's not a bad thing. This is a neutral point. It's not a good or a bad thing. But I think it's a cool idea.
Yeah. Yeah, since we're talking about the first one, I would say my positives for the film is I already said it, like you just get right into the storyline. I do love the acting. I thought it was very good. Adrian Barbosa, or
Mm-hmm.
yeah, she is an iconic horror actress. Yeah, she was very good. I thought
Tom Atkins is great.
yeah. Tom Atkins, of course. Like he's towards the end of it.
Yeah, he just shows up and I'm like, he does
Yeah,
not know what movie he's in. He's
yeah,
acted so goofy. And this movie's so serious. He's walking in and it's like, just the look on his face is like, I got paid $12 and a sandwich to be in this movie. So
yeah. And I saw
it's
that
so
Tom
weird.
Savini is the special effects,
Yeah.
practical
Yeah.
effects wizard. So
Which they're great. God, the
yeah,
effects in these are amazing.
especially yeah, so dang good.
We'll get
And
to the second one, which has great, which is also going to be in the thumbnail. So don't worry. People will see it. That one's great.
okay.
We'll get there when we get there.
Oh my goodness, man.
The end of this one has a great special effects also. Like
Mhm.
with the dude. But I guess we can kind of talk through the kind of beats of the movie and just what we like, unless you have anything else you want to talk about.
No.
Okay. So we kind of start out, we've got, a woman, her husband is dying. He's clearly like very wealthy. And it seems like he's kind of a dick. Like it just kind of comes across like he was kind of like an arrogant asshole from what the doctor is saying, where it's like this thing where he's like, oh, well, he treated people like garbage. So it really doesn't matter like how we treat him. But they're using this like little like cheap hypnosis thing to get him to sign over all of his assets, which are upwards of $3 million. But this is where you also get the sense that she doesn't want to be with this guy because she tells him it's $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Like when they're in their bed and she's like, oh, we're going to have $1 million. But then when she's at the bank, she's like, oh, I'm coming into like upwards of $3 million. So this guy really doesn't know how much money is at stake. And she keeps taking like hundreds of thousands of dollars out also in cash and kind of hiding it from him. So I think her plan all along was maybe to kill him. Like, I think she may have wanted to be with him, but she's like, hey, if shit goes sideways, I'll shoot you also. Yeah. So, they do this, there's the weird, like, other nurse who's like, no, he needs to be in a hospital, and there's like the 19 people that have to clean their house, which I thought was a funny scene. Their little outfits were so dumb. I know this is a small detail, where they had like the tuxedo and the maid outfits, but on a onesie. It is so like
I guess I didn't even
like
that.
When there's like the cleaning crew and they come in and they're like, oh, we checked on him, the doctor's already up there. You're like, they have like tuxedo things on there. Like, it's so dumb. It's just so dumb. I'll overlay something about it. Like, but it's just so stupid. I was like, that's the stuff that I noticed in these movies. Like, because again, for the most part, it's not that action packed. There's not a lot going on. So I'm just like watching this, like, is this scene necessary? This is only an hour. And there's some scenes that I'm like, is this necessary? Like, did we need to have this whole thing about this cleaning crew?
Yeah,
probably not. But it's fine. So then after that, she goes to the bank, she gets him to sign over. But even the guy Pike, who's like, his whoever, he's a financial advisor, he deals with all his assets. He's like, I don't think he would do this. which leads me to imply that he doesn't like that woman that much. Like she's kind of like, she's like a reluctant gold digger where she's like, well, no, I was a flight attendant. He just kind of got me to come with him, but he had a bunch of money. So I went with it. She literally says that in the movie. She's like, I need to be paid for my services. Where you're like, oh yeah.
And I think during that scene, he wanted proof.
Yeah.
Him calling.
Yeah. So she calls him and is like, hey, but he's under hypnosis, you know? So, and then she's like, well, is this signature? And it's funny because the one setup I do like is he's like, hey, is this his signature? And she had been practicing that line to say to him in the cab in the very beginning. She's like, is that like an insinuation of something, Mr. Pike? And she had been like doing it over and over and over. And then she just nails it then because she knew the signature was going to be slightly different. Like, you know, going forward. So it's just funny that she had been practicing that beforehand. It's little details like that that I really like. If you just look at them as movies, I don't think they're great, but like all the small little details that are like jam-packed into this short runtime, I think in subsequent viewings make it better. Like thinking about it now, I like it more than when I watched it.
Okay.
Like just like discussing it, I think it's one of those things because I kind of watched it and was like, okay. But now I think discussing it and really thinking about like all the little small details that are just weird and quirky make me like appreciate it a little more. And I think that's where you can tell the craft. I think even though like the stories may not be that great and they're kind of truncated, you can tell these people know how to make movies because even for what they are, there's still all of that like almost unneeded stuff that happens because that's what would happen in a movie. They just have a shorter runtime to do it in. So that would be a scene in a Romero movie where they'd have like the extra scene of people cleaning the house and all of this stuff, you know? And I think it would be one of those things that it's like, oh, I think they're just kind of alluding to like these people come. So there's more of a tension. Like people are constantly showing up to this house. And so when they go to the end and they have to hide the body, like the other nurse shows up, there's like constantly this thing where there's like a bunch of people around him. And it makes you think like, oh, like when she does the thing that she does that like escalates the situation, you're like, that was the dumbest thing to fucking do. Because there's multiple, now you know there's a cleaning crew that comes to this house. Now you know there's a nurse that she's got to like throw it away. So it's like, I think that kind of feeds into that. But from then on, you know, they go to Pike, they get the money.
Are we talking about, just really quick, are we doing any spoilers or any?
Yeah, we'll spoil this shit.
Oh, okay.
These movies,
well,
so yeah.
Okay. So one, this is you recommended it to me. And then, so my first experience was the Blue Underground 4K.
It's fantastic.
Which is amazing. And the Dolby Atmos is pretty damn good.
Yeah.
So highly recommend it. But what got me thinking for saying that is because the reason why she shoots her husband is because no, he died naturally.
Yeah, he died naturally
in bed. And then what happened is that they put his body in the freezer, and then she started to hear voices in her head or around the house. And so
yeah, and it's interesting because that's a cool concept. That's one thing. The best thing about the movie is that this idea that like they put into hypnosis and they never got him out. So his spirit is just there. And they kind of find out that that's why he's still alive, because you think Romero, you think this is going to be some kind of zombie thing. And of course he did that in a way. He did the zombie thing in a way, but it was an interesting thing where it's like, oh no, he's alive, but not really. And he knows he's dead, but there are also a bunch of other spirits that now have been brought over that now he's like, oh, I can't contain any of these things.
Which the ending, the finale was
it's great.
Awesome, man. Yeah.
So it's an interesting it kind of thwarts what you think he might do, where you're like, oh, there's a dead guy. They're going to put him in a freezer. He's going to come back to life and try to kill him. That's what you think is going to happen. And it's what does happen in the movie, but he knows that he's dead. But it's not at some point, the point that he's killing them, it's not even him in control anymore. He's just one of many people. So, because he asked for help and he reminds her that he's like, Jessica, I asked you for help and you didn't help me. So, you know, it's not even about the money. He's not even mad that she stole the money or do anything. He's unaware of all that really. But he's just like, hey, I asked you for help and you said no. So fuck it. These people can just kill you. I don't care. Like, let them have you. Like, and so I think there's a great tension kind of on all fronts. And it really just brings up the fact that this woman is just kind of a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Like, you can tell that she really didn't have any connection to her husband. And even in the bed, that's another great scene. That scene where they're like about to have sex is such a pivotal scene, but not for those reasons. It gives you so much in such a truncated amount of time.
Yeah, just what type of individual she is.
Yeah, like what type of person is she is, because she hasn't given anything up, and then she uses like every excuse. But then we'll come back to that scene in a second. But then when she wants something and he's asleep, she's pissed.
Yep, guilt trip and everything.
Yeah, she's like, oh, the bastard, he's asleep now, and I want something. But when he wanted something, I was like reluctant to I was like begrudgingly going to do it. But he's like, oh, we got to make sure there's no connection. And she's like, yeah, there is no connection between us. You can just tell that it's like, he doesn't get it. What she's implying and what he's hearing are very different things. She's like, oh yeah, there's nothing to connect us to this thing. She's saying, no, there is no connection between us. Like, there's nothing between us. Like, I'm using you to get the money. And that's it. It's purely that. So I found that fascinating, where there's just like, again, it's the difference in the two films, whereas this one is like very character driven, but in small spurts. You kind of got to really think. Like I said, it's more interesting talking through it, because you're like, no, there is actually a lot of character development in Romero's movie as in comparison to Argento's, but he doesn't ever do that. So you can tell the style difference, whereas Argento never develops any characters. And they're basically like husk of people. His women are like garbage people, like they're never developed. And so you can kind of see that in when we get to that, like that woman has no personality. And that's usually what he is notoriously scathed for, is that he never gave women personalities. But and this one you do get, she's very personable, and there's a sinisterness to it. But I mean, it's a typical comeuppance story. It's the monkey paw thing, where it's like you wanted the thing and now it's something opposite, but it's cool that it's like even different than that. And everything is resolved. And so we move from there. He comes back, and then the guy's like, no, there's nothing happening. And then he hears it. But then he, at some point, there's also another layer of now he's like, oh shit, this is cool. I want to use this for my research and do all this stuff. I'm a doctor. I want to see what's going on. And so it's just this weird thing where it's at that point it turns again, and you're like, oh, he wants to know how this is possible. And he figures out oh, I never got him out of his hypnosis. And if I do, he'll just die. But then all the other stuff's going to be released, which is what we find out whenever he's chasing Jessica at that point.
Can we talk about the ending really quick? Okay.
Let's say we're basically there. So all that happens after that is they find him. He's really interested in that. And then the one night, she takes some more money out, and then basically he just starts coming after her. She's in the house. He's coming after her. The dude's gone. I think he's getting the stuff out of the safe. He's doing all that. She's getting chased. So yeah. And then basically run of the mill, we'll discuss the ending. But basically what happens is he just tells her hey, it's not me. It's these other entities that we haven't really talked about. And it basically forces the gun. She shoots him. That was the escalation. That was the escalation point, is that when she hears those noises, she just shoots him in the head. And I'm and then their plan is to bury him. So that's kind of the interstitial before that. They're going to bury him. So he's digging the hole. That's where he's at. The other dude's digging the hole. She's up there getting chased by him now. So we'll go on with what you say, and then we'll kind of wrap up the ending of it.
Oh, well, no, I mean, you just touch upon it. Beautifully. So
yeah.
I just really want to talk about the ending. So yeah,
the very ending. Yeah. So that's what happens. That's not the very end, but that's kind of Jessica. He basically gets her to pull the gun on herself and shoots it. And then she falls on the ground. And then the dude now is I got to get away. So he takes all the money and goes to, a hotel. This is where then there's a bunch of cops there. And I'm like, when did they find out that this woman was dead? Who called this shit in? Yeah, that's what I want to know. Because
maybe the maids.
Yeah, but the doctor's gone. She pushes the nurse away. So I don't know. That's a dumb little hole in. They're immediately there. They go. He's in the hotel. They're tracking him down. They're trying to. Tom Atkins will show up. Later. He's there. He's using his hypnosis thing to fall asleep because he clearly can't sleep anymore. The other thing that happens is he brings him out. That was the one thing that happened before we get to the very end. The doctor, when he's after Jessica dies, he goes up and he snaps him out of his hypnosis. So
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So he snaps him out, and then that way he can die. And so when they find his body, he's all decrepit because he's been dead he actually then decays. It releases all of those spirits then, what's ever in, because he's like, oh, he's just laughing because he's like, okay, fine, I'll die, but these people have no way back then. These like malicious spirits have no way back to where they came from. And so it releases them out. So we cut to him in his hotel room. He's trying to sleep. And then you see a cool thing, which for the time it was made, I was like, it could have been like really poorly done CGI. But it's cool how they do it. And I think it may have been like people in suits that they rendered out. I think that's the way that I was looking at it. I don't know for a fact, but it looks like guys in like suits that they would put like balls on for like modern stuff, like tracking suits. So it kind of looks like that. And they just like displace them like in and out of the scene. But it's really cool. And then they throw that hypnosis thing right into his chest, which is fucking awesome.
Yeah. So basically, so they killed him because just to get revenge, or is because he stole? I mean, like, so.
Well, at that point, they knew that he was like the hypnosis thing, so they're coming after him. I think because he was like partly involved, and they like killed the other thing. I don't know that they necessarily give a good reason why.
I was trying to figure
going
that
after
out.
him, but I think they're just going after him maybe because of I think the dude is still in there. Like Jessica's husband. Yeah, he's part of it. And I think they're implying that he's the one that kills him.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I don't think they say it, but he just kind of mingled in, but he would know, he would want revenge because he killed him. You know, Jessica's dead. Like, I think it's other people that killed Jessica.
Gotcha.
I think it's like the other entities in there, but I think it's definitely the dude that kills, you know, him, because he's like, well, you know, you let all this stuff happen. You're the one who hypnotized me. You did all this, but yeah. So there's some like loose threads in there that don't always add up, but it doesn't matter. And not feature length, it makes sense. Like,
yeah.
So, but great effect there. It's a cool shot where like, especially at the end, you see him on the bed, and then Tom Atkins comes in there, and then he looks around, and then he's just like standing there. It's great. And then, very like Romero, like in the effects, like his face definitely looks like old school zombie Romero, which I liked. It probably could have looked better, but I like the way they did it.
Yeah, it was pretty badass. I thought it was very good. And then of course at the very, very end, Tom Atkins is looking at the mirror, and then it's basically the doctor or the psychologist or whatever.
Yeah. He shows up, and it's great. That effect is great. It's solid. He's got the thing sticking out of his chest. Like, it's so good. Yeah. So that one's fun. I think it's like, I think it's definitely the better of the two.
Oh, easily.
I don't know if you would agree, but it's definitely the better of the two.
Yeah.
Because even though like stylistically, like the Argento one is cool, it's kind of boring. Like until the very end when it like ratchets up to like an 11 when all that stuff's happening. It's kind of just like, it's just meandering, but again, you don't get into that development. So you're like, I don't know why I would care about Harvey Keitel's character or his wife. You just really don't care about these people if they live or die, which I think is the thing. Like there are just far more interesting characters like Jessica, even though she's a piece of crap, you don't necessarily want her to die. You know, like when she gets it, you're like, she probably deserved that, you know, but you're not inherently like, I just wish this person would die. Whereas like the next one, I'm like, these people both need to die. They both suck. And that little kid in the movie, he sucks too. Like, so the second movie, so we're going to move on to Argento's. So the next one is The Black Cat, a deranged crime scene photographer, which is Harvey Keitel, is driven to brutal acts of madness and murder by his girlfriend's new pet. But will this cunning feline deliver a final sickening twist of its own? So we start out, he's coming into a crime scene. There's a woman, of course, completely naked and chopped in half by a pendulum, which is pretty great. Very, very Argento. And so I'm surprised there honestly wasn't more like nudity or like, you know, erotic stuff in the thing that was just that, you know, because I'm like, usually with him, there is a lot more, but I liked it. It was cool effect. I mean, the body looked pretty cool. Obviously, it's all fake, but like it looked pretty cool. And so, yeah, he's creepy from the beginning. Like, you know, Harvey Keitel's like very weird. He's developing the photos. And I would say for me personally, like nothing really happens. You can tell there's like a strained relationship with his girlfriend, Annabelle, and she basically has no personality. I was like, it's nothing there. Just like a bland person. And then he wants to be an artist. And like I said, there's just like jumps where it's kind of just like stuff happens, but it just jumps. Like the story just kind of jumps. It's not really consistent. Whereas the last movie, like it flows through, even though they like cut some corners. This movie just feels like we're just like, we have to like in our minds be like, oh, this is where he's at. Cause people are just doing things. Like, it's just, he goes from being annoyed by this black cat, which I really don't know what's going on with the black cat, but then he's like murdering this black cat for like art. Like, you know, he's like, oh, I'm going to strangle this thing. And then he's like, then he's famous.
Well, and then right after he buys a stranger's cat that looks exactly the same, but this one's all like demonic. I mean, this is
yeah. So it's weird because it's like it's those jumps and like, oh, he took this photograph, which you see, but literally in the next scene, he's like uber famous now and wealthy, and you're like, what did we just jump like a year? Because the process of like him not only like making an entire book and getting it published and doing all this stuff, people know it, and then people are calling him like harassing. Like it's like he's just all of a sudden famous, but then he's like accused of killing the cat, and he's like, no, I didn't kill the cat, but he did kill the cat, and the cat keeps coming back. Like,
what the hell was that? It wasn't not a montage, but that lucid dream about. Do you remember? It was it was kind of like 1800s or whatever it was. What the hell was that all about?
I think they're trying to explain that the cat, I think it's the same cat. Like, I think it's this like this black cat is like the omen of like, he's like causing you to, he affects this stuff. He causes like these maddening things to happen. So it's not necessarily that like, it's weird because he like kills the cat, but then the cat is what's leading him to do this, but he was also a weirdo before that. So it just like drove him. They really don't do a good job of telling you what the cat is doing. All it cuts back to is like, clearly this cat is some demonic presence that's causing people to kill others because the cat's there, and then he ends up getting like all his limbs stretched out in the 1800s. It was very weird. It was very kind of all over the places. I'm like, oh, is this just witches? Is that what it is? And they do kind of imply that a little bit because she's like praying a little bit before that. She's like, you know, whatever. And then the cat shows up. So was she praying for her boyfriend to die? I don't know. They don't really, like I said, they don't do a good job of explaining like what is happening. It just is happening. Like, and maybe if I had read the Poe story, I would know a little more, but I don't. So, I think there's actually a full length like Black Cat movie though. That is, I think I actually own it. It's Edgar Allan Poe's The Black Cat. It's from Severin.
Oh, wow.
So I guess this is the same thing.
Interesting. Okay.
That's weird. I don't even know why I didn't put it together that this is like the movie that I bought. Yeah, it comes over top meta slasher about a production films company, a sequel to one of the 70s horror best known. Yeah.
Who directed
that? Lewis Coates.
Looks like you haven't even watched it yet.
No, I haven't watched it yet. Yeah. Oh, I know why I got this. So interesting. I was thinking about this. So this is the same director who directed Paganini horror.
Oh, okay.
Which we talked about in the interview, but like, that's why I picked it up because I was like, oh, it's interesting because I got Paganini horror and I was like, oh, I wonder what the director did. And then this was it. And then I was able to go on the site and buy this. So I'm now going to watch this because this seems like more of like the full on like interpretation of what the Black Cat is. Maybe that'll give some insight into what's actually going on. But yeah, they don't really give a lot of insight to like what the Black Cat is. And I don't have any reference for the story. So I'm sure people are like, oh, it's just about this type. And I'm like, yeah, probably, but I've never read the story. So, but I shouldn't have to either. I think that's the downfall of this movie is that like, you don't get a good sense of like what it is. So I think that's poor storytelling, which Argento is pretty known for. Like his storytelling can sometimes just be bad. Like you're kind of just like, wait, what's happening now? And he just cuts. He just expects you to know. It's like leaps in logic or like, this guy strangled this cat. Now he's famous. Doesn't matter how he got there, whatever. He's famous now. Yeah. Now he's killing people.
And then the last 15, 20 minutes. Oh my God.
Yeah, dude. It's just like all of a sudden, it's like, this is like, you know, so like, we're not going to go as in depth with this movie because there's just not a lot there. The only thing you need to know is that like, they are obviously him, Harvey Keitel and Annabelle are just not getting along. I don't remember his name. It's like Rod something, but we're going to call him Harvey Keitel. And so you have him. And so they have like a strained relationship, you can tell. And like, then there's like also a thing where she might be wanting to cheat with this child.
Who's the like teenager. Yeah.
Which is weird. I was like, oh, that's awkward. Yeah, we can definitely kill her. Like, I will say I'm disappointed that kid didn't die. I thought he was going to kill that kid. Like, because when they're having the scene where he's telling the neighbors like, hey, this is all going on. I'm like, man, he didn't die. Like, I swore he was going to kill that teenager. So like, and maybe in a longer movie he would have, to keep him out of trouble. But I guess all it does is it leads to the cops coming. Like that's they call
the Howls, man.
Yeah,
that was nice to see him.
Yeah, and John Amos is in this. Like, he's good.
Yep.
So, great scene. So we can kind of cut to the end, because basically nothing happens. The only thing that happens is he kills her.
Yep.
With a butcher knife, which that hand is great also, and it's like the hand is like falling apart. He's trying to kill the cat, but he doesn't. And so he kills her, shoves her in a wall, which is rad, with the cat, which you don't know right away. You don't know right away that the cat, because the cat kind of scurries out the window. So you don't really know until the end that he put the cat in the wall. Like when he breaks, the cat kind of breaks through the wall later on. You don't really know that he put the cat in there, which is also great. You would think he would just let the cat go, but no, he's like, no, I'm going to wall your ass up in this thing. He kills her, puts her on the wall, and then has to go through this elaborate thing of making people think that she's still alive. So he like puts her in the car with the photo, which is so stupid. Like
with the old people.
He made the photo, and she's got the little wrap around her head. I'm like, dude, this dude is out of his mind. Like, he's out of his mind if he thinks anybody. But it's raining and it's dark, so he's got the little. He's home aloneing it, and ran away. Like, it would have been far easier.
Yeah.
And then he goes to the lake and he's like, oh, my wife is here. And then doesn't see. And then I thought, like, they imply so many times that things are going to happen. And then he's like really kind of like flirting with this, like, again, this teenager, because that girl is maybe 18. Like, and he's like flirting with her. And I'm like, are they going to do something now? Is he going to kill her? There's just so many times that I thought it was going to be like the movie I thought it was going to be like, and this is the first time I watched it, the same thing where it's like, you think he's going to be this like pervy photographer who just ends up becoming like a serial killer. That's the vibes you get from the cat, and the cat's going to make him start killing people. But no, he just like kills the cat, and then he just kills his wife. And you're like, no, I thought this would be cool if he was like killing more people, but using those photos, but people didn't know that those people were dead. I thought that's kind of what it was going to be, because he was killing the cats. And I thought that was going to lead to like him like staging these photographs. Yeah. But they were actually going to be dead people. Like, I thought that's kind of, and that seems like very Argento to do, but he doesn't do that. Obviously this is a story, so he didn't write this. Like, he just wrote the screenplay, because there's another Edgar Allan Poe story. So I'm like, I get it. But it seems like a missed opportunity. I feel like Argento, if he was making this story, he would have done that. Like, he would have then slept with that girl, that waitress, and then killed her in some brutal way. Like, semi-Italian erotic way. He would have like had sex with her and killed her, like chopped her in limbs. So that's what I'm saying. So it's like, it's weird that like the only thing they set up, and I'm like, Argento just had to have a dead body chopped in half. That has nothing to do really with the story.
In the beginning? Yeah.
He just had, that's all Argento. He had to have that. He's like, nah, I gotta have that. Like, it just, because he could have been a crime scene photographer and we didn't need any of that. He could have like gone into his job, like, and talked to people and had, set up that he was a photographer, but we didn't. So that's definitely Argento. But so he sets up that like, oh, I was at this place with my wife, but then she didn't come back. But then, no, she went. Then the teenager that she's flirting with comes and he's like, where's she at? Somebody calls from New York. And he's like, oh, she went here, but she didn't make it there. And he's like, this guy's lying. He has like a 2-minute scene where he's walking out the house being like, yo, man, that guy's lying. That guy's lying. I'm like, motherfucker, nobody listening to you. Who are you talking to? It did that. He's just like, this is just a bad scene that doesn't need to be in here. Who's this for? Like, and then he eventually like goes and tells the neighbors, but like it all leads up to the last like 10, 15 minutes, which are great. So the cops show up.
Phenomenal. Yeah.
And he knows these people because he's the photographer for the forensic department. So he knows these cops. So they're kind of showing up, but they kind of seem like something's off too. They kind of know he's weird and like they may think maybe something's happening. And so they show up, they question him, they look around, nothing's happened. He gets the book, he's like, yeah, give me that book as a present. And so they go through all this rigmarole for like 10, 15 minutes. And then they're leaving. And you're like, oh, he's like reprieved. He's like, okay, God, this doesn't even include all the scenes where he like kills her, like tries to put her in the wall, which is pretty great. Yeah. But he's doing all of that. he goes away and he's like, oh, what'd you think you'd find behind these something walls? I can't remember what he says. And I'm like, oh, you gave it away. You dumbass. You gave it away. Like, and so he shuts the door. He's like, oh, leaning up against it. He's relieved. And then all of a sudden they're fucking back. Like, no. Oh, you forgot to sign it. So I'm thinking when they're signing it, like, oh, they want to see the handwriting because now they know that he wrote the note. Like, that's what I'm thinking. Like, it's like, that is cool that like in some aspects you think you kind of know the way it's going to go. It's not that. Like and maybe that's why they came back. I think that's may have been initially why they came back because they're like, hey, we need to see your signature because we think you wrote that note. Like you're being a little too weird, so we can match it. Like, but anyway, they hear the cat meowing. So the other guy goes up to the thing, and now he's thinking, oh, there's something in the walls because you said it. And now I hear this cat. So he goes up there. Immediately knows exactly where it's at. Just conveniently knows exactly what wall to break into. So he breaks into that wall and there she is. It's fucking great. It's going to be the thumbnail, but it is great. She is like eaten because they left the cat in there and that cat has had babies. I don't know how that cat had babies, but that cat has babies in the stomach.
Yeah.
There's like other cats in the stomach like eating her out, which is, it's so gnarly, but it's great.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And so like they find him, they handcuff him. They're like, well, they handcuff him kind of as they're going up to the stairs to look for it. They do that. They get her out. And then they're like, dude, you like put this woman in the wall with the cat. They're like, it's not even that they put her in the wall. It's that they put the cat in there also, which is like, they're like, cool. If you put her in the wall, like whatever, but you put the cat in there, which is what's even like more fucked up about it. Like this cat is now eating the dead body. And then he tries to escape. And he gets what's coming to him. He tries to go out the window with this elaborate thing, and then he ends up noosing himself and killing himself. And then you just hear a cat meow, and there's another cat. So I was like, great. Another black cat is here. There's like so many black cats. So that's basically that in film. Like I said, I don't enjoy it as much as I like the first one. I think Romero's is definitely better as far as like
better story.
It's a better story, and I think without Harvey Keitel, I don't even know if that other one works.
Oh, it totally
because like you kind of take him out and he's like doing a lot of the heavy lifting of like the story and his manic nature of like doing it and how he's like strangling things. You're like, I could see Harvey Keitel doing that stuff. So I mean, I like I said, overall, I think it's a cool package. I think it sucks too because you watch the good one first and then you're just lingering on with the second one, but it's a cool package. I definitely recommend if you like this. The Blue Underground one is definitely the way to go. I wish they did more movies. They don't do that many. They did this Death Dream, which I have a review up on the channel. I think that's a pretty cool movie. Another Tom Savini. That's his first movie, actually. First Tom Savini effects. So a lot of Tom Savini lately. But that's pretty much that movie. Do you have any like closing thoughts about the films? Like I know you like the first one like me more than the second one, but
no, I mean I think it's definitely worth seeing, especially with the iconic horror directors. Definitely watch the second one for Harvey Keitel's acting because it's actually great. Really good, really good. But
you can let us know down in the comments below which one do you like more. I don't say it, but you subscribe to the channel too. You should become part of the collective. I'm very bad at promoting myself. I don't know. I should say Frank is, he's clever enough that he put it in his damn intro. It just says subscribe in his intro. When all these other, I need to take a blank from all these other guys that are like, welcome to the channel, subscribe. I don't do that. I wait till you like don't watch the whole video and then I ask you. But anyway, all Frank's stuff will be in the description below. Like I said, go over there, follow Frank, and watch some of his content. Does a lot of physical media stuff, so it's cool. He does some horror stuff too, though, so that's why I wanted to kind of collaborate with him. It'll come out at some point. We just did an interview, so I just did an interview for Frank's channel, so I'm excited for that. We'll give more details in the future when that'll be out, but just finished that one, so we figured we'd move on to this to have him on Nightmare Flashbacks. So hopefully we'll have Frank again on the channel. It's been a fun conversation, so I will make Frank watch another weird movie. I'm gonna pick a weirder movie this time. I kind of, baited you in. I was like, I'm going to get him with the Romero and their Argento.
Well, you know me. I love Argento films.
I was like, I know he likes these two directors, so I'm going to bait him in with this like more mainstream movie. And then we're going to watch something weird. I can't wait. We should probably watch The Black Cat. Maybe,
No, I'm good.
Yeah, we'll watch something else. I'll find a movie. So maybe in the next month or so, we'll get together again and do another one of these. I like doing these. You know,
all right,
it's
buddy.
more
Yeah,
fun.
yeah.
But that's all I've got, guys. I'm gonna link some videos for you at the end as always, and I'll talk to you guys in my next review.